guys, welcome back to the channel. Now, as you can tell, we are in the corner of shame. If you guys are new to my channel, then you would know that this is the corner in my room where I like to stack all the books that I received in the mail and that I purchased for the month so that I can fill my book haul, because I clearly do not have a better organization system aside from just stacking them up behind me and calling it a day. So what we're going to do is that we have a lot of books to haul, unfortunately, and I'm going to go quickly run through the books and tell you which one titles that I'm most excited for, and then I'm also going to run quickly through some historical romance titles that I managed to pick up too. Not sure how many books we're going to get through. Quick numbers, I feel like I have over 50, probably over 60 books to haul. So let's get started. So really, in no particular order, I think I'm going to show you one of our new historical romances that I picked up. It's Loreta Chase and her book called 10 Things I Hate About the Duke. And I don't know if this is going to be similar to the movie 10 Things I Hate About You with Julia Stiles and also with that guy from Batman that passed away. I'm so sorry, I forgot his name. But I'm really excited to read this book. Thought it was very pretty. Thought it was very gorgeous. I'm also in a historical romance kick right now, so I'm very excited for it. The second book that I have to show you is actually a arc that I was given to by Simon Schuster Canada, here in Canada. This one's called A Faux Love Story by Lone Lee. And now this one I'm very excited for because it has Asian diversity. It's about these two families that own faux restaurants and that they are competing against each other to see who makes the best pho. And I'm so excited to read this book. Honestly, sometimes I always forget if it's pronounced faux or pho. So I'm sorry if you guys know how to properly pronounce it, definitely let me know in the comments. The next book that I picked up is actually a book that I picked up from Amazon because it was on sale for very cheap. All their thrillers are always on sale for so cheap, and I just want romances to be on sale for that cheap too as well. But this one I've been meaning to pick up for the longest time since it hit the shelves, but I picked it up now. This one's called The Boys Club. It's a legal thriller, and it's about a woman who is working in this law firm, and she is trying to hang out with the boys, trying to climb up on top, even though she's a female, and she's like getting all this prejudice and hate for it. But there's going to be some thrilling aspects to it. My friend actually read this book, and I commented on her photo, and I told her, like, you know, like I wanted to read this one, and she said she zipped right through it, and it really helped her with her reading slump. So excited to dive into a legal thriller. It has been a very, very long time since I read one, mostly because every time I read a legal thriller, I always just want to like become a lawyer. So the next book that I have to haul is actually a book that my sister got as a gift for Christmas, and it was hilarious because if you guys don't know my sister, you guys probably don't know my sister because I don't talk about her, but basically my sister doesn't read. She doesn't freaking read, man. So when she got this book, I was so excited because I actually really wanted to get this book, but I didn't want to pay the price for it. But I'm so glad her friends got her this because now I stole it from her. This one's called The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. And basically everyone has been screaming about this book. Everybody really enjoys this one. This one I think is about a psychiatrist and the patient, and then the patient is silent, and then we don't know if the patient actually committed a murder or not, and this is kind of like the thrilling tale of it. Not sure if I'm actually going to read this physical format or listening to audiobook. I tend to read my thrillers through audiobooks because it goes faster and I'm actually feeling the emotions that the characters are going through. So the next book that I have is actually another arc that was sent to me from Simon Schuster Canada. This one is called Yoke by Mary H.K. Choi. She wrote Emergency Contact and Permanent Record. She is Korean American and she likes to write about Korean American teens, which I really appreciate because I love Asian diversity. But I don't know anything about this book, but I just wanted to show you how beautiful this arc is. So here, and then here, and then here. Like, honestly, the production value for like her arcs. So the next book that I actually picked up myself is actually Truth, Lies, and Second Dates. I think this is the third book in the Danger series from Mary Janice Davidson. So if you guys have watched my videos, and if you watched like my favorite books of 2020 videos, you would know that The Love Scam by Mary Janice Davidson was one of my favorite books. So I think this is one of like the books in the series following a different couple and a different zany background. This one is also from SMP Romance, so I assume that this is the series. So the next book that I have to show you is actually a Christmas gift that was sent to me from Emily, and Emily is from Emily Kate Reads on Instagram. She has been one of my book friends for a very long time now, ever since she joined the book community, and she sent me a message saying that she's going to be at a publisher event, and we met up and we shared chicken nuggets with each other, and we just grew to be really close friends. This one is called Love and Olives by Jenna Evans Welch, and this one is the third book in her series. I don't know what the series is called, but they take place in different countries, and it's about teens that just kind of have fun and like live their lives, and also dealing with like more troubling issues. This book is a thick chunker. It's like 500 pages and I'm very intimidated by it. My friend also, outside of Bookstagram, outside the book community, just basically my childhood friend that actually likes to read too, called Lillian. She really likes the series and she's like side-eyeing me and asking me like, can I borrow it? But you know, she's gonna find a library copy because quarantine is happening and we're not allowed to see each other. So I don't know if I actually showed you these books yet, but basically I have it here. This one is Skywars The King and it's a duet series, and the next book in the series is actually called The Queen. I got The Queen as a Christmas gift from my friend Polly because I told her that I bought The King and I just need the second book. These books are so cheap on Amazon. They were only $13, and if you guys don't know me yet, Skywars is actually one of my favorite indie romance authors. So I thought that if I were to collect paperback copies of indie books, I would just go with Skywars books and also books from my favorite authors that I really enjoy. Skywars tends to write kind of like very dark and intoxicating and captivating romances, so I'm very excited to read these two books. I think this book is about gambling, and then one of the females is actually put up as a bet, and then the father loses, so then the father has to give the daughter to our main hero. So I'm excited to read this. So the next book that I have to show you is actually a book that I picked up from Amazon because Amazon was having like a crazy indie romance sale and these books were like only $5. This one is different because this one I think is a teacher-student relationship and it's a love-hate relationship. This one's called Ruin by Willow Astor, and this is actually book 3 in the series called Kingdoms of Sin, and I do not have book 1 and 2. I think you could read this book without reading the other 2 books in the series, but I don't know. I'm excited to read it because teacher-student relationship could be good. So the next book that I picked up is actually a mafia romance called Trafficked by Alexis Abbott, and I think this is just a standalone romance. It's called A Mafia Bad Boy Romance. So I'm excited to read it. The title's a little bit, you know, a little bit taboo, but like we're gonna get over it because it's a mafia romance. I haven't read a lot of mafia romances this year and also in my lifetime, and I want to get into mafia romances, so why not start off with something cheap and something fun. Then the next book that I picked up is actually like, I think this is part of a series too. This one is a motorcycle club romance, and I've been telling my friends Lacey and Jessica that I want to get into motorcycle club romances, so I went on a hunt and I found this cheap book called Trip, and it's by S. Nelson, and this is part of the Knights Corruption MC series. So I think this is like a random book in the series that I think I could read as a standalone. Very excited to see what all the hype is about for the MC romances. Next 3 books that I have is actually part of like, I think like a series, but I think they can be read as standalones. The series is called The Hidden Truth by Robin Patchen, and now I messed up because I actually bought book 2, 3, and 4, but I didn't buy book 1, and it's probably because it wasn't on sale. But basically book 2 is named Twisted Lies, book 3 is named Innocent Lies, and then book 4 is called Generous Lies. And this series sounds really interesting because it sounds like everything takes place in this small town, mysterious things are happening, and then our couples have to kind of solve it and get through it together. So I'm excited to try out romantic suspense because it's definitely a genre that I haven't read a lot that I feel like I should explore. The next book that I picked up is actually another motorcycle club romance, so you could already see that I was on a kick to get my indie romances in line since they're so cheap. This one's Lonely Rider, and it's a motorcycle club romance called Rider. And and it's by Melissa Davenport. So I'm excited to read it. What I find really interesting about indie romances, especially the ones I bought, is that the books themselves are freaking huge. Like, how big are these? And then the font sizes are really big too. The next book that I picked up is another motorcycle romance, and this is like, oh, man, these are just random books in the series. I don't even know if this is like book 1 or book 5, who knows. But this one's another series called A Demented Sons MC novel, and then this one's called Smoke and Mirrors by Kristen Allen. So I'm excited to read it too as well because they all sound so dark and so romantic at the same time. Next book that I picked up is actually a thriller novel, and this one's traditionally published. It's not indie romance. This one's called The Woman Outside My Door by Rachel Ryan, and I think this one is very creepy because someone is just standing outside of someone's door and we don't know who she is. So I don't know. There was one time where my sister tricked me and said that someone's standing outside my door, and I literally bolted up the stairs and I just kept running because I did not want to deal with someone standing outside my door in the middle of the night. I guess we can continue with more thrillers, but this one is called The Cutting Place by Jane Casey, and I picked this one up from Walmart. If you guys can't tell this giant sticker here, but basically I went to Walmart and I decided to buy something because I just wanted to buy something, and I picked up a thriller novel because I thought this one was really cool. This one is about a female detective trying to figure out why this journalist is missing after doing like a piece on these really wealthy guys in this really prestigious gentlemen's club. So it sounds really dark and sounds really great. Gonna pick it up and read it. 3 books that I picked up is something that I'm very proud of for finding on Amazon for pretty cheap. So these books originally sell for $17 each, but I was able to pick them up for $12 because they were selling it for very cheap. So I saved $5 each. This is from Talia Hibbert. If you guys haven't read her already, she wrote like the Chloe Brown series. I always forget the character's name and I always forget the title, but this is Talia Hibbert and I trust her with my life for romance. This book is a small town romance series, so each one follows different couples. I think you could read it as standalone. The first book is called A Girl Like Her and it's part of the Raven Woods series. And then the second book is actually called Untouchable. And then the third book is called That Kind of Guy. And my friend Veronica here on BookTube has read one of these books and she really enjoyed it and I want to get into it. So now I have the paperbacks and now I have no excuse. So I don't know what to call these because I can't say that they're Christmas gifts for myself because I tend to just keep buying things for myself. So here are some things I bought for myself once again. So I saw Famine being on sale. So originally Famine is like $24 on Amazon Canada and it was on sale for $16. And I was like, I have to get it because now I have the first 2 books, which is Pestilence and War. And I haven't read Famine yet, but I'm excited to read about Famine. So Famine's by Laura Thalassa. Honestly, always mess up her name. So sorry. But this book is the 4 Horsemen series. And this is book number 3. And the 4 Horsemen series is basically a dark romance featuring the 4 horsemen. And they are out to set to kill the whole world and kill everyone on the planet. And basically these gods, these horsemen fall in love with human beings. And they have these very conflicting ethics and their code of honor. Because now they're like, oh, well, I can't kill the planet that you live on because now I'm in love with you and things like that. And I want to protect you. So dark romance. I'm going to see if I can get through it very soon. This book is very thick. My friend Lacey has already read this book and she gave it 4 stars. So I'm excited. The next book that I picked up is actually a special collector's edition of Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. And you know what? I want to say this is a gift to myself. You know why? Because this book was freaking expensive. This one is a special edition novel with like these pages and it's just hardcover. It's a very nice hardcover. Like everything is just very printed very nicely. The papers, everything, like everything was very nice. So it was expensive. This one was like around $30. I never pay so much for a book, but it just looks so pretty. So moving on, the next book that I received in the mail from as a Christmas gift from my friend Polly is Prisoner by Annika Martin and Skywars. Now this is one of my favorite dark romances. I think it was like one of my first official dark romances that I read. And this one is about a girl who goes into the prison system to teach like prisoners how to communicate and how to write and how to like, you know, educate them so that when they get out of jail, they can find a proper job. And then our heroine is in the middle of like a jail breakout. And then the person that she is attracted to actually runs and gets into her car and holds her at gunpoint and basically says that like drive. And this is the story of like she being his prisoner and then them falling in love. Do not worry, this book does not have like Stockholm syndrome because the authors make it very clear that the decisions that she's making is not because of Stockholm syndrome, and like there's really like an angst and a push and a pull for it, so that like we truly know that if they are to be together, it's real and it's raw and it's realistic. So absolutely love this book. Not a review, but pick it up if you guys want a dark romance. So the next stack of books is the Maya Riddell books that I picked up that I wanted to complete in the series that I was collecting. I actually collected all of her books from Avon Romance because I just love her so much. I'm not sure if I'm going to put out my Maya Riddell like breakdown earlier than the book haul, but I think so. So you guys would know that I love her books. So one of the first books that I picked up, it's hard out there for a Duke, and I just picked it up because I wanted to complete the series of Keeping Up with the Cavendishes. This book was very fun and very entertaining. It's about a Duke who basically doesn't want to be a Duke and falls in love with a commoner. And then the next book that I picked up from Maya Riddell is The Wicked Wallflower. This book is part of her Bad Boys and Wallflower series. This one was very fun and very entertaining. It includes two couples who are fake dating and who are competing in this like Olympics game style thing for a large sum of money. So very fun and very flirty. The next book that I picked up is actually book 2 in the series, and this one is called Wallflower Gone Wild. And this one follows the story of a girl who is going to be engaged to this man who has been accused of murder, and now she wants to get out of this marriage. So she decides to reinvent herself and make herself look like she's a crazy person. Meanwhile, our hero, who is being accused that he has murdered his wife, is trying to convince her that he is not evil and that, you know, mistakes happen and something actually happened, but he can't really explain why because he has so much grief. I don't know why I'm going deep diving explaining this. The next book that I picked up is actually, I think, like book 4 in this other Maya Riddell series that I haven't picked up yet and haven't read, but I wanted to complete the series so that I can have them all together. This one's called Seducing Mr. Knightley, and it's gold and it's pretty. Does not have a step back, so I'm kind of disappointed. And last book that I picked up from Maya Riddell is A Groom of One's Own. Thought it was really pretty. It was also very cheap. So moving on with 2 other indie romances that I picked up. I think these 2 are also Motorcycle Club books. They're part of the same series called Demented Sons MC. They're like random books in those series. Like, holy shit, what was I doing? But this one is called Sticks and Stones. This one is called Cade's Temptation. Jeez, I can't even read the font. But anyways, excited to read it and pick it up to see how motorcycle romances truly are and to see if I actually really like them and love them. The next book that I have here is actually a book that was sent to me from the author herself, H.R. Moore, called Queen of Empire. This one is a fantasy romance and I went for it and I dove at the chance. The next book that I picked up is Mistletoe and Mr. Wright. After watching Chelsea Dolling talk about how she didn't like this book, it kind of saddens me because I actually really enjoyed this book over the tourist attraction. This one is about a girl who is very wealthy, goes into the small town to see if she can redevelop the place and make it a better place, but everybody hates her and it's kind of like a fish out of water situation storyline. Really enjoyed it. Perfect for the holidays. The next 2 books that I picked up are just these like contemporary romance books. This one is actually a book that I already own, but the book that I picked up was a thrifted copy and it was very damaged, so I decided to buy the new copy because I just love this author so much. This one's called Nina Bocci and this book is called On the Corner of Love and Hate, and it's like kind of like a small town romance. I feel like the cover is so bland and it makes the book seem so boring, but I thoroughly enjoyed Nina's writing, so I'm excited to read the series and I know I'm just going to adore it. I read book 2 in this trilogy and I am so nervous to pick up book 1 and 3 because I know once I'm finished then I have no more of Nina's writing. The next book that I picked up is Sidelined by Susan Balster, and this one is a book that I just saw on Instagram for the longest time ever and nobody was really talking about it, but I know it's just something that I would like because it's so obscure, it's very plain looking, and I don't know, it just seems like something I like. Talking about obscure romances or talking about just romances in general that you've probably seen a lot on Bookstagram, I decided to finally pick these 2 books up even though I haven't read it yet. This book is called The Key to Happily Ever After by Tiff Marcello. Tiff Marcello is actually Filipino and she's Filipino American, I think. And this is like a book featuring Filipino casted characters, and I really need to read more Filipino people's works because I want to read more diversely and I want to read books about Asians from different countries. And then the next book that I picked up is actually a historical romance, but you couldn't really tell because this is like a large paperback format. This one's called To Have and to Hoax by Martha Waters, and it does have pretty good ratings on Goodreads, but then also a lot of people have said that they didn't like this book. I'm excited to read it because, you know me, I love historical romance. The next book that I have here is a very highly anticipated read. This was sent to me from HarperCollins Canada, so thank you for them. This one's called Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This is Sally's 3rd book. If you guys are new to my channel, then I'm sorry to say that Sally Thorne is not really one of my favorite authors out there, but I do give her books a fair try and I want to see if I'll actually like this book a lot. I'm just not going to read the synopsis and dive into it to see if I enjoy the character and storyline. I didn't like The Hating Game, but I liked 99% Mine more than The Hating Game. Maybe I'll like Second First Impressions more than both of them. So the next 4 books is actually part of a series from Meg Cabot, and then this one is starts off with size 12 is not fat, and then it goes from like, I don't know, The Bride Wore size 12 and Ready to Rock, and then this last one called size 14 is not fat either. And then these books I actually picked up from Thrift Books because I wanted to read these series because my friend Dayla from Instagram has actually mentioned to me that this was one of her favorite series. She really loved it. It had like mystery element to it, and it was just about this very strong female character. And since I love Meg's writing from her recent romances with Avon Books, I decided to pick up her older books. My friend Lacey from Lacey Book Lovers also said that she really enjoyed the series as well, and she's wondering why all of a sudden I'm buying older romances, and she's not complaining, but she's just wondering why randomly I'm buying it, and it's just because I was in the mood for it. So speaking of Lacey, Lacey was kind enough to send me this book called Regretting You by J.L. Beck and C. Hallman as a Christmas gift. This one is an indie published romance. It's a bully romance. I really enjoyed it. I told Lacey to go read it. She hated it. She gave it 2 out of 5 stars. What do we know about our friendship? We just hate each other's favorite books, but it's fine. So now I have a copy of this book. This book has a lot of trigger warnings in it. There's cutting, suicide, depression, anxiety, basically everything on the spectrum that you don't want to read if you have very high trigger warnings. But I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was such a great dark romance, and I really like the angst in this. And then the second book that I picked up is Everything I Left Unsaid by Molly O'Keefe. Now this book was actually recommended to me first by one of my favorite romance authors called Jenny Holiday, and she said that this book was really good, so I'm excited to read it. And I don't know, I'm very glad that I got this book for cheap as well because it was on sale. So the next couple of books I have to show you is actually books that were sent to me from Valentine PR, and I got a whole stack of books. So the first stack of books is actually romantic comedy novels. This one's called Holiday, and it's by Monica Murphy, and obviously you can tell that this one is going to be a fun Christmas novel that I can't wait to dive into. This one's a fairly short novel too as well. Looks very cute. I'm gonna really enjoy it. The next book is a very fun one. This one takes place of like kind of like a journalist who does a lot of like vlogging while traveling. This one's called Girl Off the Grid by Jillian Dodd, and I'm excited to read it simply because the cover is very pretty and very gorgeous, and just seems like something I really like, especially since now that I'm stuck here in this country, I might as well go exploring through books. The next one that I have to show you is Perfectly Adequate by Jewel E. Ann, and I think this one is like kind of like a doctor medical romance, so I'm excited to read this one. And the last romantic comedy that I have to show you is Most Eligible Billionaire by Annika Martin, and I think Lacey has read this series and she really enjoys this series a lot, so I'm excited to get through it too as well. So the next few books I have to show you is actually like paranormal romance and kind of dark romance. So this one is called The Dark Ones by Rachel Van Dyken, and this one is part of the Dark Ones saga. I think this is paranormal romance because it does include a vampire and there's like immortality and themes like that, so I'm excited to check this one out and support a indie author. And then this one is called Dark House by Karina Hale, and Karina has written a lot of romantic comedy romances or just like romance contemporary indie novels that I haven't read before, so I want to see her take on paranormal romance. I think this one has a ghost in it, not too sure. And then the last 2 books are paranormal books. So this one is called Shadows by Kristen Proby, and this one is called Spells by Kristen Proby. So all these books were actually sent to me because my friends and I hosted a paranormal romance readathon, and then Valentine PR was very nice enough and kind enough to send us all paranormal romance books. So since I'm into paranormal romance now, I'm very excited to actually get into these books. So speaking of Valentine PR, I was also sent another stack of books too as well. This one is called When You Come Back to Me by Emma Scott, and I think this one is a male-male romance too. I haven't read a male-male romance from an indie author before, so I'm excited to check it out. And then I think this other one is also a male-male romance too. This one's called Someday, and I think that this one's going to be very emotional. I heard a lot of good things about Emma Scott's writing and her books. And then the last book that I have to show you in the paranormal romance stack, those aren't paranormal romances, but this one's called War of Hearts by Samantha Young, I think. And my friends like Charles, Lacey, and everyone has actually read this for like their pick of the month or book club of the month or something like that. So I'm excited to dive into it so that we can be friends together and read the same books, because that's what you do. And then the last 2 books that I have is, I think, thriller novels. This one's called Memoirs Aren't Fairy Tales by Marina Mann, and then this one is called When Ashes Fall by Marina Mann too as well. So I'm excited to pick these 2 up. Thank you so much to Valentine PR for sending me these books. Okay, so the last few books I have to show you is actually books that I hauled on Thrift Books, because one day I decided to go shopping for 2000s romance novels. And what do you mean by 2000s romance novels? I meant that books that were published in the early 2000s. So this one is actually part of a series that I don't know what series I'm collecting anymore, but this is Diana Holoquist, Make Me a Match. And it's like this book right here. Like you can tell it's an early 2000s novel by the cover design and everything, but I'm excited to read it and I'm excited to check it out. I'm a little bit disappointed because this one's actually a library copy and that's not cool. The next book is, I think it deals with food, but this one's called Hungry for More. It's also by Diana Holoquist, so I'm excited to read it. It seems like it's going to be a very fun and flirty novel. And then the next book that I picked up is also another Diana Holoquist book. This one's called Sexiest Man Alive, and I thought that this was just such a fun cover, and it seemed like something juicy that I could just dab right into. And then the next two books is actually historical romances by Eloisa James. And this one is Your Wicked Ways. And then this one's called Fool for Love. Now, this one it was very sad because I purchased it thinking that there was a step back, but there is no step back and now I'm sad. And then this one actually does have a step back. Very pretty and very gorgeous. Now, if you guys have watched my guide to Eloisa James novels, you would know that I kind of have a problem with her historical romances, and I'm not sure if I'm actually going to like these. So hopefully I do because I bought them and they weren't that cheap. And then this one is also, I picked it up too because I wanted to complete the series. This one's called The Ugly Duchess. I really like the stuff back of this one. It's very pretty, even though I hated this book and I didn't like it that much. And then the next two books that I picked up is actually from the thrift store because the thrift store were having 40% off sale. So I wanted to pick up something for cheap. These are two Meg Cabot historical romance novels. This one's called Nicola and the Viscount. This one's called Victoria and the Rogue. I literally thought from the cover of these books that these were YA novels, but they're not, and they're actually just historical romances that are very small and very thin. So I feel like I could fly right through them. And then I think the last book that I'm going to show you right now is called The Dunwich Horror by H.P. Lovecraft. This is actually a classics novel, but if you guys haven't watched it yet, I got into classics recently, but I'm not like into it. Like I haven't done my research yet, but I know that I like horror novels and I like gothic fiction. So that's why I decided to pick this one up, thinking that I'll enjoy it. Now, for the rest of the haul, I don't think I'm still holding hostage on a bunch of books in that corner right over there. And it's actually books that is from eBay. And I'm really dragging my feet to show you guys. I still have a lot of eBay books to show you, but I think I'm just going to wait it out for a couple more packages to come in and so that I could just do it all in one shot. But that is it for my book haul, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye.